Worst Nightmare Productions presents in video form to all viewers out there a very special device. Ha 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 ha!
What's this darkly lit item? Some may wonder what it is, because it is not well lit. Is that better? I think you can see it now. It's a very neat device. What is this little device, you ask?
This is the Monaco Enterprises Incorporated telephone amplifier model MTA-1A. It is from 1976 according to date codes on the microchips. It is extremely and absolutely rare, and I almost can bet humongous sums of money none of you out there will ever find one of these. The audio is being passed from the built-in microphone on this, a condenser mic, I believe, which then feeds to the phone line. The phone line audio is being sent through an attenuator to the camcorder. Any automatic level control you hear is from the camcorder's ALC. Here is the back. Let's get some better shots. There goes my tripod. Hate it when my tripod does that. Mumbo jumbo jazz. I know I just flipped the screen toward me and it zoomed in on a rotary phone. Okay. So here it is. It's a very special device. The volume only applies to the built-in speaker. So on the back here you can see some information on this unit. I know it's pretty crummy setup for the power, because it uses one of those jacks that has a large pin. A large center pin that's bigger than any freaking adapters I can ever find. I'm sure those of you that collective energy equipment know exactly what the freak I'm talking about. You find something that's, oh yeah, I should have an adapter that fits that. Every freaking adapter you tried, the center is too freaking small for the monstrously freaking huge pin in the device you're trying to plug it into. That's what was going on here. I happen to have this little part here amongst the drawers of parts, and it had short little wires on it, so that's why. Telephone amplifier, model MTA-1A, serial number, and then there's a little dotted line there. Monaco Enterprises Incorporated, Denver, Colorado. And there's an adjustment for the sensitivity. The first thing is to notice the lack of serial number. Oh, maybe they just forgot to put it on there for some reason. No. There is no serial number on this. I'll show some badly camera handled shot with a either cell phone or camera in my hand, shaky, crummy, terrible video that will make you guys scream at me because of how shaking and badly handled it is, that I shot of the inside of this device. I also have some still pictures I took of the circuit boards. Circuit board. That'll look a bit better than the other video. It's a pretty aesthetic device, very vintage. I love this wood case. Jordan Tuck really likes this wooden case. It has a small little speaker in there. Very common size type of speaker. So in this video, we'll show the still pictures. We'll show the video of the inside and how I had to jury rig an LM386 in there to replace a amplifier chip that had its part number scratched out and was overheating as the device drew way too much current. And now some of you are going to want to stab me with a sword because of the fact that I modified and replaced a part in what I believe to be a prototype. See, this thing on the inside you'll see on the footage. Oh yeah, the other thing I'm going to show is a telephone call in which I have my friend Maurice talk to my friend Luke Stripling using this. So that'll be good. And on the inside though, you'll notice it says sample F, handwritten on a sticker on the circuit board. Sample F. That, in combination with the lack of serial number, tells me that this was at least one of 5 units, 5 prototypes, I believe, that were made. And that, combined with the fact that I can find absolutely zero information on this thing online, except for Monaco Industries in a whole different area than Denver, Colorado, a fire alarm company or something like that, gives me the impression that these probably never made it into full production. So I don't think anybody out there is ever going to find one of these. And this might even be the only one left in existence. And if there are any more of these in existence, there's probably only 4 or so others, assuming that number F was the last one made. But there may have been other samples, like sample G, H, and so forth, who knows. It's definitely a rare device. I got this at a hamfest several years ago. I don't remember how much I paid for it, but I don't think I paid very much. A lot of times I'd find little odds and ends that were extremely cheap, and this was one of those things that I probably hardly paid anything for, but ended up being, looked to me to be a prototype and an extreme rarity. A little speaker phone device. It doesn't have any means of dialing out. If you hook up to a phone line and turn the switch on, switching it on will be the same thing as taking the phone off the hook, and turning it off will be the same thing as hanging up. So and it does not have any ringer inside either. So you have to have a separate phone that will ring, or a separate phone to dial out. But once the line is active, you can flip this on and talk through it. And it's very interesting because whenever you talk, the built-in speakers cut off, and then whenever the environment around this is silent and it receives audio from the phone line, it will sound it to the speaker. And there is a slight delay that you'll hear between switching the microphone and speaker. It's a very slight delay, but it's noticeable, and it's an interesting little device, and it's very much American made. As you'll see in the part of the video that shows the inside of this, it's extremely obvious that it is made in the United States of America. To anyone that has an eye that's messed with old equipment from various different countries, you can tell at just one glance that it's made in the United States of America. Anyway, on to the next clips. These clips were shot earlier than today. I just haven't got around to actually officially deciding to make the presentation video of this thing until today, because I've just been putting stuff off. I haven't been made much videos in a long time. Well, I made some video shots relatively recently, but I haven't really edited anything in a long time. So, and I have more stuff to show. So, just stay posted. I still need to make an official presentation of the Pierce wire recorder you may have saw in the video with my friend Dan Beard, and that needs a full presentation too. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the introduction, showing the device in one piece, talking about it a little bit, all through the built-in microphone here. The reason why I decided to do this whole video portion boom through the built-in microphone is because the telephone call boom portion, I did not sample the audio from the microphone. I only ambient through the camera microphone had sampled the sound of Luke Stripling's voice coming out through the speaker, having been spoken through a carbon microphone, which in itself is an absolutely mesmerizing, to say the least, experience. At least to me. I mean, there's something about the carbon microphone that I think a lot of you out there will know what I mean. There's something about it. It isn't high fidelity, but there's something about that sound that is very enjoyable and pleasureful and fun to listen to and interesting and unique, and something that you don't hear in this day and age of condenser microphones and hardly any carbon microphones in use anymore. Every now and then you'll still hear them, but that's very rare. Very rare.
Now that was a long-winded introduction, wouldn't you say? That's a bit too long. Man, your videos are becoming too lengthy. All you do is chin wag all the time and gee whiz, and then when you do something off, your camera handling is so crappy that, jeez, man, these videos need to be thrown in the trash can. What do you think you're doing, man? Son? So let's get to showing that earlier footage, you know, of the inside. And Maurice calling, Luke Stripling!
I have the device opened up. I had it opened up yesterday. I opened it up again today because I remembered there were a couple 0.68 microfarad tantalum capacitors that were registering a very, very low reading on the ESR meter, and I got a 0.22 microfarad, less even, and it went considerably farther on the ESR meter, so I know the 0.68 tantalums in here are going bad with age. So I want to see if I can improve the sensitivity of this thing by replacing those two capacitors. This device is not fully original part working. The amplifier IC I had to replace. This really weirds me out because, okay, the old amplifier chip, this is what's annoying. In this thing, they scratched off the markings on the chips because they didn't want people figuring out what ICs I used and copying stuff or whatever. I've seen this done before. I don't see it very often, but every now and then you'll see electronic devices where the ICs, they all freaking scratch away at the label, I mean at the you know, where it says the part number. So they did that for the amplifier IC, and now this is the one I put in. I had to jury rig it to a 386. Here's the other IC, and according to the pinout, this is also an amplifier. This IC drives the telephone line with audio from the thing's built-in microphone. I believe this IC is the same IC that was used for the power amplifier, but when I turn it on, it would draw an excessive amount of current, and the amplifier IC would get very hot. And it was this chip here. It would get really, really hot. So I knew, okay, something's not going on, and I think the IC itself, I believe, was bad, and I wondered, oh, maybe it's a DC going through the speaker or something like that. I took the capacitor on the output off. That did not change anything. It still got hot, so it's not that. This is the original amplifier IC, and you can see it's an LM number, and underneath a 3, and then something, then stuff that you can't make out. The other amplifier IC that drives the telephone line in here, I could see was LM386 something, and I thought, oh, yeah, I mean, you'd think it's a 386, right? I thought, duh. Pins 1 and 8 weren't hooked up, which is for the gain capacitor. Pins 1 and 8 are optional on the 386. You leave it unconnected, you get a gain of 20. I went ahead and put a 0.15 microfarad just to get a little bit more gain. I wanted it to get a little bit louder. But the other pins, some of them were in agreement, but the output pin and the positive power pin went to completely different places. This is what I found. This was a pinout of the mystery chip. This was hooked to ground. It might be input, I'm not sure, you know, because you have your inverting and non-inverting input. This was definitely connected to an input. These weren't connected. That was connected to ground. That was connected to ground. Pin 5 was connected to ground. Pin 6 was the output driving the speaker. Pin 7 was your power coming into the chip. The 386, however, pin 6 is the output. Excuse me, pin 5 is the output on the 386, and pin 6 is your power into the 386. So I have no idea what chip this was. So I looked on lists online of all the different LM series ICs, and no IC I could find matched this mystery IC. I don't know if it was an older version of the LM386, because this is from 1976, according to the date code on the speaker. I don't know if it was an earlier version of the LM386 that perhaps had a different pinout originally, and at some point they revised the design, changed the pinout slightly, which would be very odd. I don't know if they ever do that with chips. It doesn't seem like they would, but you know, I'm just curious. You know, maybe there was an older version of the 386 that was a different pinout. Or it's some mystery chip. I tried searching LM3, all the different things, data sheets. I could not find a single chip that matched it. So, in replacing the IC, I just got an LM386 and put a socket on there and shifted a couple of pins over so they went to the right spots. And now it works. Though, of course, it doesn't have the original look, which is unfortunate, because it looked a lot better not having this jury-rigged stuff and just the IC there. But the original IC would get super hot. So, if I wanted this thing to operate, I had to replace it. And I want to use this. It's not just something to sit on display. It's something I want to use and have fun with. But what really amazes me is on the back, it has an area for your serial number, and you'll see. So it's a telephone adapter model MTA1A by Monaco Enterprises Incorporated in Denver, Colorado. I saw online, I searched Monaco Enterprises Incorporated. There's Monaco Enterprises Incorporated, which is a fire alarm company, which is, was it Wisconsin or something like that? It's somewhere else. It wasn't in Colorado. I don't know if Monaco had moved at some point and originally they were doing stuff like this and then they changed to fire alarms, or if this was a whole nother Monaco Enterprises. But this device, not only will you notice that there is no serial number at all. There's a little dotted line there. There is no serial number on this. But you'll also notice on the inside here, you'll see a label, and it says Sample F. I believe this was an engineering sample, or just a sample of the product. And the fact it's got no serial number, it says Sample F, this tells me that this is basically this is a prototype. May not be the prototype, i.e. it's not the first one made, period, but I think it's the 5th one ever made, perhaps the 5th one ever to be in existence, And if all the others are gone, perhaps the only one left in existence. This is an extremely rare device. I have a feeling, the suspicion, that it never went into full production. I cannot find an iota of information about this device online anywhere. I'm getting the impression that possibly this device never went into full production, and this is basically a prototype, an engineering sample of something that they wanted to produce but never went into full production. And it's just a fascinating little device. It's an old speakerphone, and it's really neat. The speaker has an O-ring and to hold that vent on, and then you got the actual speaker. Nice little classic little speaker there. And it's just a neat device. So I'm going to go ahead and replace these two tantalum capacitors because they are leaky. And anyway, they weren't shorted. I already had checked for that. Because the overcurrent, I was thinking, oh, maybe it's just one of these tantalums that's shorted. No, of course it wasn't that. It was something worse. It was a freaking chiseled away labeled chip that had failed. So at least the 386 managed to fix that. It is a very interesting device. American made. It's got American written all over it. Another neat thing is it's a half duplex device, which means it can't transmit and receive simultaneously. You can only transmit or receive whenever someone speaks through the telephone and you are in a silent location, quiet location. Their voice will come through the speaker, but it has to be loud enough on the telephone's side to trigger it. Otherwise, it will default to disabling the speaker and only passing audio from the microphone to the telephone on the other end of the line. When the speaker on the telephone speaks, their voice will come through the speaker and the microphone is cut off. So it switches between the two, and the switching is done electronically with field effect transistors. Here's one field effect transistor right here. It is a P1086E P-channel FET. There's another one in there elsewhere. I bet the one over there probably switches your microphone on and off going to the telephone line, and then this one probably switches your audio amplifier for the speaker on and off coming in from the telephone line. It's all measures to prevent feedback. It's a very interesting device. I really enjoy this. I got this at a hamfest several years ago and haven't really done too much with it until today. I've tried it a few times in the past but never got it to work, but this time I thought, you know what, I can get this to work. I'm just going to look into it more carefully and further, because the other times I messed with it I didn't do much with it. So anyway, it's a really neat device. I'm going to go ahead and replace these. I thought I'd go ahead and take some video now that I have it apart again today, because yesterday when I had it apart I took some still photos, but I didn't take any video footage. I took some photos before I replaced the amplifier chip or anything, so you can see how it looks with completely original parts, and I'll put those photos in the video, of course. But I want to go ahead and replace these tantalum caps. I'm hoping that might improve things a bit. It might not, you know. We don't live in a perfect world, but I mean, if it doesn't improve things, it's probably operating more or less at how it's supposed to operate anyway. I tried putting them in temporarily. The originals were 0.68s. I put in 1 microfarad, just temporarily, because I had noticed in the circuitry there each one is paired with a 100k ohm resistor, and I was thinking, you know, why would they use tantalums? They could have used electrolytics. But I believe that tantalums are more precise in holding their value. In electrolytics they can vary more, and I believe, and I know that there's some timing involved whenever you speak. You can hear in the earpiece of the phone, you can hear the microphone of the speakerphone device it cuts off, and then after a certain period of time, short period of time, it cuts back on. I believe that timing is controlled with the RC time constant. So they're not only did they choose an odd value like 0.68 versus something more typical like 1 microfarad, but they used tantalums, which I believe are more precise in their values. So I'm thinking I'm going to put the originals back in. I don't have any 0.68 tantalums on me. If I did, I probably go ahead and put those new ones in, but I don't even have any 0.68 electrolytics for that matter. So since these ones aren't shorted and they still do emit some signal, I'm going to go ahead and put them back in. And they're not audio capacitors. Like, it's not exactly 0.68 on the cap meter, but it does read a value. So I'm going to go ahead and put these ones back in there. And if I ever get 0.68 tantalums, I might as well put them in. But it doesn't affect the amplification at all. So yeah, and these are both about the same coming out to be about the same value. I'm going to go ahead and put the originals back in. It was working with these ones, and I think they chose tantalum because of more stability. I'll have to research more, but I think tantalum capacitors are more stable with temperature and stuff like that, I think. Yeah, so I didn't demonstrate it, but I did notice a difference in timing, because I had tested it earlier with a 1 microfarad electrolytics and noticed a certain delay after I speak before I can hear this microphone cut back on. And when I put the original 0.68s back in there, the delay was a little bit shorter, and I prefer that shorter delay, so I'm definitely leaving these capacitors in. This device is currently working. Hello, I can speak through a telephone's carbon microphone, and it comes through. It's really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool device. I really enjoy this. It's neat to own something that is a prototype. At least definitely a sample. It is not an official production unit. And I just have the feeling that these probably never made it to full production. You know what I mean? What? Oh, maybe it's this cutting in and out. Testing, hello? Yay!
Inspire me. You amaze me with your ways. Oh yes, extra texting me again. Separate that question mark. Luke Stripling, send that question mark after the text to Luke Stripling. You inspire me. Luke Stripling, oh, Luke Stripling, oh, Luke Stripling. Luke, it was not Luke, it was Jordan Tuck.
Yeah, so if it's just 1 minute conversation, you know, we can just go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, yeah. Ricky wants me to talk to you for a minute, and I'm literally like reaching out to kind of talk to you because it doesn't reach far enough. Anyway, I was going to tell you that I'm working on a paper for school about Bible doctrine. I'm taking a class on Bible doctrine, like the theology of the Bible and all that stuff. So that's what I'm doing right now, and hopefully I was going to work it at home, and I had to come here because my computer quit working. or the Wi-Fi, the same problem I had, except for this time, it's not, the Wi-Fi here is working. I don't know, it's really weird, my computer's screwing up, I don't know. Of course I bought it at a crappy, when did we buy it? Where did we buy it again, Ricky? A pawn shop, so that would explain it. I don't think it's the computer though, I think it's the software maybe, the Covenant does. Anyway, I'm gonna let you go because I know it's been probably a minute.
Where do you go to school, you know?
Oh, New Life College. It's associated with Arkansas Baptist. So yeah, that's where I plan to get my associates, and then maybe, at least for now, the plan is to get my associates here, and then go get my psychology, bachelor of psychology, at UCA, and then maybe get my master's after that. So.
Oh, I see, man. You know.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you go because I gotta get this working on this.
Okay, good luck, bro.
This has been a cassette master production.